You ever felt like something deep inside you just cracked? Not in a bad way, but in a powerful, almost magical way. Like a door inside your soul opened and suddenly the world looked different. That's not your imagination. Chosen one. Something huge just happened inside you. The final hermetic seal. The invisible shield that's been keeping your full power hidden has just fractured. And guess what? The narcissists in your life, they felt it before you did. That's why they're acting strange. That's why their games don't work anymore. They sense your rise. They're losing control. And you're stepping into the real you. In this video, we're going to talk about what this hermetic seal really is, why narcissists have always been drawn to you, and what happens now that this sacred seal is cracked open. You'll finally understand the spiritual attacks, the fake people, the weird silence, and why all of it was preparing you for this moment. So if you've ever felt like you were different, like you didn't quite belong in this world, this message is for you. Drop a comment and let us know if you've felt this shift. Don't forget to show love by liking, subscribing, and joining our growing community of awakened souls. You are not alone on this journey. Stay with me till the end, because what you're about to hear could change how you see yourself forever. Let's unlock the truth together. One day, everything felt loud around you, people talking, life moving fast, your thoughts running wild, but suddenly something shifted inside. It wasn't dramatic on the outside, no one saw it, but deep within you there was a silence, like time stopped for a moment. In that stillness, it was as if something ancient inside you cracked open. You couldn't explain it, but you felt it. Not as pain, but as something powerful, something real. Your chest didn't hurt from sadness. It felt lighter, like a heavy weight had finally been lifted, even though you never realized you were carrying it. It wasn't a breakdown, no tears, no loud cries, no collapse. It was a breakthrough, quiet, deep, and sacred. You stood in that moment feeling different. Everything looked the same, but it no longer felt the same. The people who used to make you doubt yourself suddenly didn't matter. Their opinions stopped holding power. The fake love, the lies, the manipulation, it all became clear. That was the moment the final hermetic seal fractured inside you. This seal wasn't a curse. It was a divine protection wrapped around your soul since birth. It kept your power hidden until you were strong enough to carry it. And now it's open. This inner shift wasn't an accident. It was a signal that your time has come. A part of your soul has awakened that you didn't know existed. It was always there, just waiting. And the moment it cracked, you didn't fall apart, you rose. The truth started speaking louder than the fear. You stopped explaining yourself. You began seeing things for what they truly were. The lies could no longer hide in your light. What you felt was not just some strange feeling, it was the beginning of your rising, and nothing can stop that now. All this time, you thought you were broken. You looked at your life, the delays, the heartbreaks, the moments when no one understood you and wondered, what's wrong with me? But here's the truth, chosen one. There was never anything wrong with you. That silence, that pain, that waiting, it wasn't a punishment, it was a protection. Imagine a precious treasure buried deep in the earth. It's not thrown away, it's hidden so no one can steal it before it's ready to shine. That treasure was you. Your voice was quiet because the world wasn't ready for your truth. Your path was slow because you were being strengthened in secret. Your heart was guarded because it was too sacred to be wasted on the wrong people. The pain you carried wasn't a sign of weakness. It was part of the process. Every tear watered your roots. Every lonely night carved space inside you for deeper wisdom. You weren't being forgotten, you were being refined. You see, the hermetic seal wasn't a curse. It was a divine covering, a spiritual lock placed over your true power so that narcissists, abusers, and energy leeches couldn't steal your light before you even understood it. Now that seal is breaking because you're finally ready, not just to survive, but to rise. So if you're feeling different lately, more awake, more clear, more powerful. It's not your imagination, it's your true self stepping forward at last. You were never broken, you were hidden. For a reason. Have you ever wondered why your life felt heavier than others? Why you felt blocked, silenced, or like something deep inside you was being held back? That's because of something ancient and sacred called the Hermetic seal. The Hermetic seal isn't a wall or a curse, it's a divine safeguard, a spiritual covering placed over the souls of the only wanted control. You're not staying in rooms that shrink you just to keep from being alone. You've made peace with solitude. You've made peace with your path. And now your alignment is destroying everything false. You see things now. You feel the energy behind people's words. You sense the vibration behind smiles. You recognize manipulation, not because you studied it, but because you transcended it. You know the game so well because you finally stopped playing it. That awareness, that discernment, it's power, the kind of power the narcissistic matrix fears the most because it can't be controlled. You're no longer programmable, no longer easy to deceive, no longer available for spiritual attacks masked as relationships. Your rise is quiet, but it's loud in the spirit. It's loud in the way demons flee when you enter a space. It's loud in the way your calm triggers chaos in others. It's loud in the way your peace makes manipulators restless. It's loud in the way your silence demands respect. You're not seeking a stage, you've become the stage. You're not searching for the light, you are the light. You're not chasing power, you've remembered that you are power. And the best part? You didn't have to destroy anyone to rise. You just had to stop destroying yourself. You didn't need revenge, you just needed distance. You didn't need validation, you just needed truth. And now that you've found it, you're untouchable. Not because you're guarded, but because you're grounded. Not because you're defensive, but because you're divinely protected. So let them whisper, let them wonder, let them panic in your silence. You owe no one an explanation for the version of you that had to die so this one could rise. You didn't rise for recognition, you rose for redemption, for alignment, for peace. And in doing so, you've broken spiritual chains that bound generations before you. This isn't a comeback story the world can understand because it wasn't written for them. This is a soul story etched in sacred silence, vibrating through the unseen. And every step you take in this quiet power shakes the earth. Your light is contagious. Your courage is unlocking the world. You thought it was just about you. Your healing, your survival, your rise. You thought you were just trying to make it out of the pain alive, to breathe again, to find your voice, to break the chains that had wrapped around your soul for so long. But now you're starting to realize the truth. You weren't just rising, you were activating others. Your energy is not only healing you, it's waking up everyone who crosses your path. Your presence is a signal. Your truth is a code. Your courage is a frequency that vibrates across timelines, reaching people who don't even know why they're suddenly seeing clearer, feeling deeper, and questioning everything they were told, because you had the strength to break the final seal inside yourself. You made it easier for others to find their own. You cracked the illusion, not just for you, but for the collective. And now those around you are beginning to awaken. Not through sermons, not through shouting, but through you simply being real. Your silent healing became their invitation. Your boundaries gave them permission. Your freedom challenged their fear. And your peace showed them what's possible. This was never just about one soul rising. It was about a wave of remembrance. And you were the first light, the first one in your family to break generational curses, the first one in your circle to say, "This ends with me." The first one to walk away from manipulation, not in anger, but in power. The the first one to choose stillness over chaos, inner truth over outer noise. And now others are watching, not with envy, but with awakening. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. They're drawn to your energy, to your calm, to your clarity. You've become a mirror for what they didn't believe was possible, because they saw you fall and now they're seeing you rise. Quietly, strongly, authentically. And it's waking something up inside them. And this is how real change happens. Not through force, but through frequency. Not through control, but through alignment. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't even have to be fully healed. You just have to keep choosing truth. And in doing so, you send out a ripple of remembrance that touches lives in ways you'll never fully understand. Some people will be inspired to change, others will be triggered and run, but all of them will be affected because you carry the activation code they didn't know they were waiting for. This is the sacred responsibility of a chosen one, to walk first, to rise first, to awaken first, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if no one claps. Because your rise isn't just a personal victory, it's a spiritual key. You, or worse, they start attacking you for no reason. It's not because you've changed in a bad way. It's because your vibration has shifted to a place where their darkness can no longer hide. You've become a mirror to their shadow. You didn't ask for it, but your soul carries truth, and truth always makes illusions tremble. This is spiritual, this is energetic, and this is what happens when a chosen one remembers who they are. You're not being dramatic. You're not too sensitive. You're just tuned into a frequency that many people spend their whole lives avoiding. And that frequency, it's a weapon, but not one that destroys. It exposes, it purifies, it wakes up. People will either rise with you or run from you. And you're starting to see who's who. That's why old relationships are falling apart. That's why certain spaces feel too heavy. That's why random people act aggressive, defensive, or triggered around you, even when you've done nothing but walk in peace. It's because your light is disturbing the energy they've been hiding behind. Your presence is disrupting demonic agendas, the kind that thrive on fear, control, and deception. You don't have to preach. You don't have to prove. You don't even have to try. Your energy is doing what your words never could. You are now a signal, a broadcast of truth and freedom, and every spirit not aligned with love, healing, and truth, it feels that signal, and it reacts. And this is why spiritual warfare intensifies when you awaken, because you're no longer feeding the system, you're breaking it with your very existence. You're not fighting with fists, you're fighting with frequency. You're shifting rooms, disrupting lies, and breaking chains just by being you. So if it feels heavy sometimes, don't give up. If people fall away, let them. If the room gets quiet when you enter, well, that's confirmation. You're not losing your mind. You're gaining your light. And your light isn't soft anymore. It's sharp, sacred, unstoppable. You are no longer hiding. You are no longer apologizing. You are no longer dimming to make others comfortable. You are the light. You are the weapon. You are the one they hoped would stay asleep, but you've awakened. And now, darkness doesn't stand a chance. They expected your rise to look like theirs, loud, flashy, dramatic. They thought that if you ever stood up again, it would be in anger, revenge, or some desperate grab for attention. But you're not rising for applause. You're not rising to prove anything. You're not rising to shout, argue, or fight. Your rise is silent, but it is shaking the very foundation of the narcissistic matrix. It doesn't need noise because your energy now speaks louder than words. Your healing is speaking. Your stillness is roaring. Your presence, steady, grounded, unbothered, is making spirits tremble. You don't post every move. You don't announce every win. You've stopped explaining yourself. You've stopped seeking permission to exist in your truth. You're no longer begging for understanding from people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And that is what's sending shockwaves through the spiritual realm. The narcissists and dark energy forces that once fed off your confusion, your chaos, your need to belong, they're starving now. You no longer feed them with reaction. You no longer play the game. And that silence, that detachment, that holy peace wrapped around your soul now, it's disrupting every system built on control. You're not screaming at the world to see you. You're seeing yourself. You've stopped looking outward for validation and turned inward for truth. Your rise is the quiet return to who you've always been. It's in the way you say no without guilt now, in the way you walk away without needing to explain, in the way you no longer give energy to arguments, chaos, or people who want to drag you back into the cycle. The same people who once had power over your mind, your emotions, your identity, they now feel small in your presence. Not because you've changed into someone arrogant or cold, but because you've become so whole that their shadows can't hook into your wounds anymore. That's why it's silent, because this is not a rise from ego. This is a rise from soul. You didn't come back with revenge in your heart. You came back with clarity. You didn't rise to hurt anyone. You rose because staying low was no longer your home. You outgrew the roles, the masks, the patterns, and the false selves you had to wear to survive. And now, your very existence is a revolution, a quiet one, a sacred one, but a world-shifting one. The narcissistic matrix, the spiritual system built on fear, shame, guilt, and manipulation, depends on people being asleep. It needs you distracted, confused, reactive. But your rise has disrupted that. Your light is creating glitches in the system. You're not addicted to their chaos anymore. You're not running in circles, trying to win love from people who, the beautiful part, you're not bitter, you're not angry, you're just done. Done shrinking, done playing small, done living under someone else's version of your story. Because now your soul is remembering the truth. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to stand out. You were never meant to follow the crowd. You were born to lead with light. So don't be afraid of the fire you feel inside. That's your spirit waking up. Don't be afraid of the changes. That's your life aligning. Don't be afraid of being too much. That just means you're finally being real. You're not becoming someone else. You're just remembering who you've been all along. You see the game now, and you're not playing anymore. For the longest time, you didn't even know it was a game. The way they twisted your words made you feel guilty, gave love just to take it away. It confused you. You kept trying harder, explaining more, loving deeper, hoping one day they'd see your heart. You thought if you just proved how loyal, kind, and patient you were, they'd finally change. But they didn't want love. They wanted control. Narcissists don't care about connection. They care about power. And they used every trick in the book to keep you doubting yourself. One moment they were kind, the next cold. Then they'd act like nothing happened and make you question your own memory. It wasn't love. It was emotional warfare dressed up as attention. They gaslighted you, guilt-tripped you, played the victim. They turned others against you while pretending to be your biggest supporter. They picked at your insecurities in the name of joking, then told you that you're too sensitive when it hurt. But here's the difference now. You see it. You finally see it. What once made you question yourself now makes you question them. What once triggered guilt now triggers wisdom. What once made you feel small now reminds you just how powerful you've become. Their tricks no longer work, and that's what terrifies them, because their power was never real. It only worked as long as you believed it did. It only worked when you didn't know who you were. It only worked when you were still seeking their approval instead of standing in your truth. Now, when they try to twist your words, you don't even engage. When they pull back their love to get a reaction, you stay still. When they try to bait you into defending yourself, you don't take the bait. That calm silence, that steady energy, that unbothered response, it drives them crazy because you've become what they fear the most, someone they can't control. You've stepped out of the cycle. You're no longer dancing with manipulation. You don't need closure. You don't need revenge. You just need peace. And you finally have it. They thought you would never figure it out, but you did. You spotted the pattern. You connected the dots. You saw how every attack, every sudden compliment, every cold silence was part of the same tired script. And you're no longer reading from that page. You're writing a new story, one where your power doesn't come from their approval, but from your own soul. It's not that you stopped loving them. It's that you started loving yourself more. And now, when they try their old tricks, they fall flat. The charm doesn't work. The guilt doesn't bite. The confusion doesn't land. You're awake. You're clear. And they feel it. So if they're acting cold, angry, desperate, or distant, it's not you. It's them, realizing that the version of you they once manipulated is gone. You're not the same. You've evolved. You've seen behind the curtain, and you can't unsee it. They can no longer win the game because you stopped playing. And that, chosen one, is what truly terrifies them. You don't need to fight. Your energy is already doing the work. There was a time when you walked into a room and tried not to be noticed. You kept your head down, made yourself smaller, just to keep the peace. You didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable, but the truth is that your very presence always shook the room. You just didn't know why. Now you do. Your frequency is rising. Your energy is no longer soft and hidden. It's bold, bright, and unmistakable. And that light you carry, it's not neutral. It's a direct threat to every dark agenda, every manipulative spirit, every narcissistic pattern, every demonic influence that's been hiding in plain sight. You are no longer just a person. You are a walking disruption to everything false, fake, and unhealed. You don't even have to say a word. Your silence makes the room feel different. Your calm energy makes liars nervous. Your boundaries expose manipulators. Your presence alone starts a cleansing, and they feel it. Because light doesn't ask darkness to move, it just shows up. And darkness can't stay. That's what's happening now. People you used to be close to can't look you in the eye. They stumble through their words. They avoid preparation. A sacred moment where the universe gently pulled you away from the noise, the lies, and the illusions, not to harm you, but to rebuild you. You see, spiritual awakening doesn't happen in a crowd. It begins in the quiet. It begins when everything else is stripped away and you're left with just yourself. Your thoughts, your wounds, your questions, your soul. That's where the real work begins. That's where your true self is uncovered, layer by layer. In that isolation, you learned how to sit with your pain, not run from it. You learned how to trust your inner voice when no one else could guide you. You learned how to pray, how to cry, how to release. And in that sacred space, something inside you began to glow again. It was lonely, yes, but it was never empty. You were being consecrated, set apart for something bigger than you could see. Like a seed hidden in the dark soil. You weren't buried to die, you were buried to grow. The silence wasn't the end of your story, it was the beginning of your becoming. God, the universe, your higher self, whatever name you use, was removing distractions, toxic ties, and anything that could have slowed down your rise. The people who ghosted you, the doors that closed, the jobs you lost, the plans that fell apart. It was all part of the sacred design. Because when you're chosen, you don't get to walk the easy path. You get the path that builds spiritual muscle, the one that teaches resilience, wisdom, and truth. And that kind of growth only happens in the wilderness. The world may have misunderstood your isolation, but the spirit realm knew exactly what was happening. You were not being left behind. You were being set apart. You were learning how to hear the whispers of your soul without outside noise. You were learning that your power doesn't come from others validating you. It comes from your connection to Source, from within. Now, as you step out of that season, you'll begin to see why it all had to happen that way. Your discernment is sharper. Your standards are higher. Your peace is sacred. Your energy is not for everyone. And that's okay. You've been initiated, not by man, not by religion, but by life itself, by spirit. So the next time you remember those quiet, painful nights, those lonely mornings where no one called, smile, because that was your classroom, that was your transformation, that was your sacred initiation. You weren't abandoned, you were becoming. And now that you're rising, nothing can take away what was built in the silence, your voice, your knowing, your fire. It's all coming back. There was a time when you knew exactly who you were. Even if you couldn't explain it in words, you felt it. A quiet power, a knowing, a spark deep inside your soul. As a child, you may have felt different. You saw things others ignored. You felt emotions more deeply. You sensed when someone wasn't telling the truth, even if they were smiling. You were connected, aware, open. But somewhere along the way, the world got louder, and you grew quieter. They told you to sit down, be nice, stay small. They told you your feelings were too much. They told you that your dreams were unrealistic. They told you that being sensitive, spiritual, or intuitive made you weak or weird. And piece by piece, you started to believe them. So you hid your light. You silenced your truth. You put your fire in a box and tucked it away just to survive. You started to play a role, one that made others comfortable, even if it made you disappear. But chosen one, that's not who you really are. And now your soul is remembering. Since the seal fractured, something ancient is rising within you. Not something new, but something you had all along. Your voice is returning. Your fire is reigniting. Your knowing is growing louder, stronger, clearer. You're no longer doubting your gut feelings. You're no longer second-guessing your truth. You're no longer asking for permission to exist as you are, because you remember. You remember the version of you that wasn't afraid to speak up. The version that trusted your visions, your ideas, your heart. The version that wasn't shaped by trauma or fear, but by divine purpose. That version is not lost. It was just sleeping. And now it's waking up. You're remembering the sound of your real voice, the one that speaks truth even when it shakes. You're remembering how it feels to move with confidence, not because the world approves, but because your soul knows. You're remembering your worth, your calling, your sacred path. And it doesn't come from applause. It comes from within. This is why things are starting to fall away. Relationships, habits, old patterns. Because they were built around the silenced version of you. And now that the real you is returning, they no longer fit. You're no longer hiding. You're no longer explaining. You're no longer pretending to be someone you're not, just to feel accepted and felt, even if it's not spoken. Narcissists are highly sensitive to energy, even though they don't understand it. They sense power, light, and confidence, and it unsettles them. Your frequency no longer matches theirs. You're not reacting the same way. You're not easily controlled, guilt-tripped, or manipulated. And because of that, they feel like they're losing grip. That's why they grow anxious, try harder to provoke you, or completely pull away. It's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's because your energy no longer feeds their false sense of control. They're not used to the real you, the awakened you, and it scares them. Your very presence is a mirror, and now that your light is brighter, their shadows feel exposed, and that's why they're acting strange. It's not rejection, it's recognition. They sense that they can't manipulate you anymore, and that's why they're backing off. The spell is broken, their tricks no longer work. There was a time when you bent over backwards just to keep the peace. You apologized when you weren't wrong. You explained yourself to people who never truly listened. You stayed silent just to avoid being called too emotional, too sensitive, or too much. You were walking on eggshells, living in constant fear of upsetting someone, even when you were the one hurting. That wasn't weakness. That was your beautiful heart trying to protect itself in a world that didn't yet see your value. But those days are over now. You're no longer falling for the same old traps. The emotional blackmail, the guilt-tripping, the gaslighting. It used to work because you cared so deeply. You wanted connection. You wanted to be understood. You gave people the benefit of the doubt, even when they gave you nothing in return. But now, something inside you has shifted. You see through the performance. You hear the words, but now you feel the energy behind them, and it doesn't match. The fake concern, the twisting of your words, the victim playing when they were clearly the ones causing harm. It doesn't confuse you anymore because the spell is broken. You no longer see through the lens of fear. You see with clarity. You see that their love came with chains, that their concern was control, that their apologies were manipulation tactics, not true change. And now they're losing power over you. Not because they've changed, but because you have. You don't chase after people who push you away. You don't beg for love that's being used to control you. You don't try to prove your worth to people who never intended to see it in the first place. You've stopped trying to fix what you didn't break. And this terrifies them. Because your silence speaks louder now than your explanations ever did, because your peace is louder than their chaos, because when you stop reacting, their games fall apart. They can't guilt you anymore because you've reclaimed your power. They can't gaslight you anymore because you've reconnected with your truth. They can't emotionally drain you anymore because you've put up sacred boundaries they can't cross. What used to keep you trapped, shame, fear of abandonment, the need for approval, no longer has a grip on you. And this is the beauty of your awakening. The final Hermetic seal fracturing didn't just open your gifts. It exposed the lies. It showed you what was real and what was manipulation dressed up as love. It revealed the difference between healthy connection and toxic control. It reminded you of who you were before they made you forget. You no longer need to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer tolerate half-truths, fake apologies, or conditional love. You've stepped into a new version of yourself, the version that knows your worth, protects your peace, and walks away when something doesn't feel right. This isn't arrogance, this is clarity, this is healing, this is freedom. So don't be surprised if the narcissists in your life start acting desperate, confused, or distant. They're scrambling because the leash they once had on your emotions, it's gone. You are no longer easy to control. You are no longer emotionally available for chaos. You are no longer who you were when they met you. You're not the puppet anymore. You're the one holding the scissors. The spell is broken, and you are free. You weren't abandoned. You were being prepared. There was a season of your life when you felt completely alone. No one checked in. No one understood you. People you once trusted disappeared without explanation. You may have even started questioning your own worth, wondering if maybe you were the problem. But what if I told you you were never truly alone? What if your spiritual isolation wasn't rejection, but divine redirection? Chosen one, you weren't being cast out, you were being called in. That isolation, the silence, the distance from people you loved, it wasn't a punishment, it was awakening. Their influence is fading, their tricks aren't working, their masks are falling. You've stepped out of the cycle, and nothing they do now can stop what's been set in motion. They tried to shatter you, but the only thing that broke was the illusion. You were never broken, you were becoming. When something cracks, we usually think it's broken. We think it's ruined, damaged, weak. But not every fracture means failure. Sometimes a fracture is freedom. Chosen one, what you felt inside, that breaking, that shift, that moment where nothing felt the same, that wasn't the end of you. It was the beginning. You weren't falling apart. You were breaking out. That crack you felt wasn't your weakness showing. It was the false layers falling off, the fake smiles, the people-pleasing, the version of you that lived for others but forgot yourself. The trauma, the fear, the guilt, those were heavy chains you carried for years. But now something deeper has awakened, and it's saying, no more. The Hermetic seal inside you was placed to protect your soul until it was strong enough to rise. Now that it's fracturing, it's not destroying you, it's releasing you. Releasing you from who the world told you to be. Releasing you from toxic cycles and trauma bonds. Releasing you from the lies that said you were too much or not enough. Yes, it feels strange. Yes, it might even feel painful, but that's what happens when you step out of the cage and into the truth. You're not breaking down, you're breaking free. So don't be afraid of the fracture. Welcome it. It's the sound of your soul remembering who it is. You didn't fail. You're finally being set free. Have you ever wondered why narcissists seemed uncomfortable around you? Why they treated you like a threat, even when all you did was be kind or honest? It's because you were the mirror they feared most. Narcissists live behind masks. They build their world on lies, control, and illusions, pretending to be powerful while secretly feeling empty inside. But when a chosen one walks into the room, something happens. You don't have to say a word. Your energy speaks, your truth shines, your presence exposes what they're trying to hide, even if you don't mean to. You reflect back to them everything they pretend to be. Where they are fake, you are real. Where they manipulate, you heal. Where they crave attention, you carry purpose, and they can't stand it, because when they look at you, they don't see weakness. They see what they will never be. Whole, awake, aligned, free. Your spirit triggers their shame. Your love reveals their emptiness. Your peace exposes their chaos. So they try to twist your light, make you feel crazy, make you second-guess your kindness, make you shrink, apologize, or doubt yourself. But the truth is, they feared you, because in your presence, their masks start to fall. Their games stop working. Their lies sound hollow. You didn't need to fight them. You only needed to be you. You were the mirror that showed them the truth. And that truth, it scared them more than anything. This final break inside you wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual. It opened something ancient and powerful, your psychic senses. You may have started noticing strange things lately. Vivid dreams that feel more like messages than just stories. Repeating numbers everywhere. 1111, 222, 333. Showing up on clocks, receipts, or street signs. People from your past suddenly reaching out, or certain memories rising for no reason. You're not imagining it. These are synchronicities, signs from the universe guiding you
and confirming your awakening. You may feel more sensitive now, picking up on people's energy without them saying a word. Certain places feel heavy. Some conversations drain you, others light you up instantly. That's your spiritual radar getting stronger. You're starting to receive downloads, sudden insights, ideas, or inner knowings that seem to come out of nowhere but feel completely true. This isn't fantasy, it's the beginning of you stepping into your true gifts. The cracking of that seal released more than pain. It released your connection to the divine. Your third eye is stirring. Your intuition is no longer whispering, it's speaking clearly. The world didn't change, you did. You're starting to see what was always there, hidden beneath the noise. And now, nothing can stay hidden for long. This is just the beginning. You may have noticed something unusual lately. People around you are acting different, especially the narcissists. The ones who used to control the room now seem uncomfortable in your presence. The ones who once made you feel small are suddenly quiet, distant, or even disappearing altogether. That's not random, it's not in your head. It's happening because your aura is changing. Since the final seal inside you cracked, your energy has shifted. It's lighter, stronger, more grounded. And that shift is being
Chosen ones, it's like a hidden lock placed on your true identity. Not because you're weak, but because your soul is powerful. This seal protects your real light from being misused. It hides your full gifts, your wisdom, your spiritual power, until you're truly ready to carry it with strength and wisdom. Most people live their whole lives without ever knowing the seal exists. They live on the surface, chasing fame, fitting in, never looking within. But you were born with a deeper calling, and that calling comes with a seal, a sacred one, because not everyone can handle awakening. Not everyone can face the truth, carry divine power, and still remain humble, kind, and aligned with love. That's why so few ever break it. It takes pain, it takes silence, it takes losing everything and still choosing light. But now, that seal inside you is beginning to crack, and that means you're one of the few. You're not going crazy. You're waking up. Your time has come, and the world is about to meet the real you, the one that's been protected until now. You may not have known who you were back then. You were still figuring things out, trying to fit in, trying to be loved. But they knew, the narcissists, the manipulators, the ones who pretended to care but slowly drained your energy. They felt something in you, even before you did. They didn't see your clothes, your status, or your struggles. They sensed your spirit, your light, your potential. See, narcissists are drawn to power, not weakness, but they don't want to see that power rise. They want to control it, use it, or crush it. That's why they targeted you so early. It wasn't random, it was spiritual. You walked into the room with a quiet presence that made them feel exposed. Even as a child, you may have noticed how certain adults or classmates treated you unfairly, and you never understood why. It's because your energy made their darkness nervous. You were light. They were shadow. You were truth. They were illusion. And the moment they came near you, they felt it. That's why they tried to silence you, mock you, shame you, or make you doubt yourself, not because you were weak, but because you were chosen. They tried to bury you early so you'd never discover who you really are. But guess what? You survived, you grew stronger. And now that your hermetic seal is cracking open, your light is getting harder and harder to hide. They knew before you did, but now, you know too. And that changes everything. They tried to shatter you emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But it was never about you being weak. In fact, it was because you were powerful. That's what they saw, that's what they feared. From the very beginning, the narcissists in your life sensed something different about you. You didn't see it at the time. You were just trying to love, to understand, to fit in, to survive. But behind those fake smiles and sweet words, they were studying you, testing you, slowly planting seeds of doubt, guilt, and shame. Not because you deserved it, but because they wanted to stop something sacred from awakening inside of you. They wanted to break your spirit before you ever realized you had one. That's why they isolated you. That's why they turned people against you. That's why they played the victim while making you the villain. They needed to confuse your heart. They needed to shake your self-worth. They needed you to believe you were the problem. Because if you ever found out the truth, if you ever realized how powerful you really are, they'd lose control. Their entire illusion would collapse. And so they lied. They twisted your words, they punished your honesty, they attacked your softness and labeled your intuition as too emotional, your silence as cold, your sensitivity as weakness. But in reality, you were always strong. Strong enough to feel deeply in a world that numbs. Strong enough to keep loving even when it hurt. Strong enough to keep going when no one clapped for you, checked on you, or believed in you. And now, chosen one, here's the truth. None of those attacks were random. They were carefully designed distractions. Every betrayal, every rejection, every moment of not being seen, it was meant to delay your final activation. They wanted you stuck in survival mode so you'd never remember who you are. They feared what would happen if you healed. They feared what would happen if you forgave. They feared what would happen if you rose. Because the moment your light turns back on, their shadows have nowhere to hide. But here you are, still standing. Not because they didn't try hard enough, but because their power was never greater than your purpose. And now, the final hermetic seal inside you is cracking open. That divine protection is lifting. Your true gifts, voice, clarity, and calling, they're all coming online. The war they waged wasn't against the weak. It was a war against the waking. And now that you're